Last time in part 3 of this tutorial, we reviewed the functionality in the File Manager script. Before we continue with the remaining scripts in this Unity project, let's do a little housekeeping and setup in the Project's Hierarchy tab. Quick reminder, the application we're ultimately creating relies on 2 Unity projects, one for the Windows side, one for the iOS side. We are still developing in the project for the Windows side. Create a new game object and rename it File Manager. Click on the tag dropdown in the inspector and create a new tag called File Manager. Ensure the tag dropdown for the new File Manager game object is set to the File Manager tag we just created. The tag will be used in a UI Manager script to easily find the File Manager so it can be used as a reference. Next, drag and drop the File Manager script onto the File Manager game object. Next, create an empty game object and rename it Game Manager. Drag and drop the Game Manager script onto the Game Manager game object. Create a folder on your C drive and name it temp4tut. So the full path name would be c:\temp4tut. In the Game Manager script, change the value of the texture flag path string to this full path as follows. Okay, let's do some cleanup and delete the directional light and rearrange the game objects in the hierarchy like so. We will come back and do some more setup in a moment, but let's remain clear on the application flow and what else we need. The Content Management user clicks on one of the buttons to indicate what flavor extract bottle label should be changed to in the iOS app. The button event handler in the UI Manager script calls the 2 File Manager methods we reviewed previously, and it also calls these 2 other methods. Before we test the buttons, we have to make sure that these 2 methods work properly. Manage Display Message method is very straightforward. It just sets the Text Mesh Pro display text field with the text passed into it. The Blink Text method calls the Set Trigger method on the Animator component. That should be on the Display Message Text Mesh Pro text field. Since we haven't created one yet, let's set that up now. Add an Animator component to the Text Mesh Pro text field. Import the following assets into the animation folder of the project. An animator controller named AnimController Display Message, and an animation named Blink Text. A link will be provided in the description of this video for these assets. In the animator component we just added, place the imported animator controller into the corresponding slot in the component. Double-click the animator controller to open Mechanim and select the Blink animation state. Connect the imported Blink animation. Now let's prepare to test our buttons. In the UI Manager, we will temporarily comment out the calling of access coroutine callbatch file in all 3 buttons. Before we can allow access coroutine callbatch file method to be called, we will have to complete our work in the iOS Unity project first. So for now, we will only test the following: writing the flavor to the temp text file, updating the message display to tell the user the content is being rebuilt for the selected flavor, and blinking the message display to draw the user's attention. Upon selecting each of these buttons, we can see all is working as expected. We will jump ahead of the access coroutine callbatch file method and simulate that it's being called in order to complete our final work in this Unity project for the Windows app. Recall that once access coroutine callbatch file is called, the batch file results in rebuilding the addressable files in the iOS Unity app and updating the contents of a local folder called server data. Once server data is updated, the server data file monitor sets a flag that the AWS manager awaits before it uploads the new files to the AWS S3 bucket as new objects. We will simulate the updating the contents of a local server data folder as follows. Create a new game object named AWS Manager. Drag and drop the AWS Manager script onto the AWS Manager game object. From the UI in the hierarchy, drag the 2 utility buttons to the corresponding slots in the AWS Manager script. Before we go any further, let's use these utilities to test that we're able to communicate with AWS S3 and use the API calls as needed. We will change the paths we are using first for our testing. Create a temporary folder on the C drive called Testing Server Data. In the Game Manager script, change the AWS Server Data File Path iOS string variable value as follows. Now let's take a look at the AWS Manager to understand what's happening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when the next part of this tutorial becomes available.